Quit acting.
Chiquito pero picoso con Palupe. ¡Sáltala, viejo!
Chiquito pero picoso. With
Chiquito pero picoso, así me dicen por vanidoso. Y es que chiquito, soy peligroso.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Chiquito pero picoso. I am Rudy Paredes. Trying some new stuff, guys. If you watched our first episode with my brother Jamie, I thought it was kind of awkward how I just stared at the camera the whole time while the song was playing. So I'm coming up with some new stuff, testing stuff out. I did want to kind of go over real quick the name of the show, Chiquito pero picoso. It came from when I was a kid. I had this little shirt. I guess you could call it my favorite shirt. I remember wearing it. I must have been 5 years old. I don't know. I'd have to ask my mom. But it was a little red shirt and it said Chiquito pero picoso, and it had a little chili pepper on it, and basically means, short but spicy. And my brothers and I, when we do our normal podcast, Quit Acting Stupid, we've talked about kind of branching off and doing our own thing. I've got friends to interview. My brother Andrew's got friends to interview, that some of us don't know. And I don't know. To me, I think 5 people on the screen is kind of a lot. I mean, unless, we all know the person and we can jump in a little bit and ask questions. And I don't know. I feel like maybe sometimes one-on-one is just a little cleaner. So that's kind of the whole thing behind this. I got my dog staring at me right here. What do you want? You good? Go see Macy. So today, I guess, our first, my guest today, I met him years ago. He's my daughter's hip hop teacher, I guess is how we met. Hip hop teacher, choreographer. If you're a fan of the Boys in Blue and you frequent Kauffman Stadium, you might recognize this guy. If you've been on a tour of Arrowhead Stadium, you might recognize this guy. This guy has 3 Super Bowl rings, which I can't really say for any of my other friends. He works for the Royals and the Chiefs, if you haven't guessed. He's a musician, which caught me by surprise after digging through his profiles. He also makes amazing cocktails, which I found out firsthand. If you ever pass through the Rosedale KCK area, you'll be able to find him there at a little place called Sagebrush, which we'll talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome old friend of mine, Tyler Banks.
Hey, dude.
Tyler, how's it going, buddy?
It's going great. I love the intro. You're far too kind.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. The musician thing caught me off guard, I'll be honest.
What's funny is I've been making music longer than I've been doing any of the other things that
Really?
that you mentioned. Yeah. So I mean, I've been a musician. I've been producing for probably 20 years now.
Okay.
But I've been playing music my whole life. I played in school, did band, did all of that. But music's the main passion and all that, even though it is somewhat of the side hustle at this point. So yeah.
Right. That's awesome, man. I had no idea. I knew when you came in. So I met you as my daughter's choreographer at her dance school, and I remember the choreographer before you. I don't know. I don't want to talk ill of anybody. Anyways, when you came in, there was some new life,
Yes.
and I dug it. The music was different. The smoothie kind of the smooth hip hop kind of dance. I just took to immediately, like the kind of Justin Timberlake-ish type of stuff. I remember I could tell right away from the music you were dancing to that I'm like, okay, I dig this guy. I like this type. So it was great, man. It was great. How long ago was that? Do you remember year-wise how long ago that was?
Gosh, it would have been probably, I don't know, 2009 or 10. It might have been 15 years at this point.
Jesus Christ. That was that long ago?
Yeah, because I mean, if I remember correctly, I moved home from Los Angeles in 2007, and I think I took about a year or so off of dancing, and then And yeah, it had been maybe a year or two home that before I decided to kind of start getting back into dancing and teaching and doing all that. So it had to have been somewhere in that 2009
Okay.
2010 range. I'm also
All right.
guessing. That's a complete guess. I could be off.
Sure.
It's in the
Absolutely.
ballpark
No.
though.
When you get to my age, like I guess our age, I can throw you in there.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
get to our age, the years just all mix and
Yeah, they really do.
it's terrible.
Unfortunately.
Hey, before we get too far, I want to say congratulations on your recent engagement
Thank you, sir.
to
I appreciate
your
that. Yeah.
fiance Allison.
Yeah, we
That
just
was
got
exciting.
engaged. 10 years together. We've been together 10 years. I proposed the day before our 10-year anniversary because her parents were in town for Thanksgiving. And now we joke that for so long, so many years, everybody, when you're in a relationship long enough and you haven't proposed or you're not engaged, that's usually like the main question: when you get married. So we've said now that we've been together 10 years and we're finally engaged, we joke that we have like the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever, which is to just stay engaged for another 10 years. So
Absolutely.
I'm realizing now that everybody asks, when are you going to get married when you're not engaged? And now that we are engaged, the first question is, do you have a date?
Do you have a date? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Hey man, what's the rush, man? What I mean, we're here, we're doing everything.
Hey,
Nothing's gonna change. You're just
yeah,
gonna have a ring. I mean,
exactly.
what else, man? Well, congratulations to you and
Thank you.
Allison. I saw those pictures on Instagram and very happy for you. Very happy for
Thank you,
look
man. I
happy.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So you grew up in Kansas City. Where at in the city are you from?
Independence.
So you grew up in
So
Independence and you're in Independence now.
yeah, I grew up. I'm 2 miles from the house I grew up in, so
Oh, okay, cool. Cool.
not far at all. Yeah, Independence, born and raised.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one older sister. She's 4 years older. Her family, I've got a niece and a nephew. They live in Memphis. They've been in Memphis for probably, 15 years or more at this point.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Are your parents still around?
Yep, in the same house that I grew up in. Yeah, they're still there. We see them quite often. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So I guess I guess the first big thing, man, that happened to you, man, did you win the MTV show, the Wade Robson project?
Yeah.
Where you won that thing.
Yeah.
So
I did.
That was an early what do you call them? Reality show, I guess you could call it. It was a game show, a dance show.
I mean, yeah, it was one of the first dance competition reality shows. So
Okay.
there was one before it, which I actually auditioned for as well. It was called Dance Fever, and it was on ABC Family. So I think if you go back outside of like Star Search or any of like those older kind of variety competition shows, if I remember correctly, Dance Fever was like the first ever strictly like dance-based reality competition.
Okay.
And so I actually auditioned for that before I auditioned for Wade's show. And so for context, if anybody doesn't know, Wade Robson was Britney Spears' NSYNC's choreographer back in the early 2000s. During high school, I was like an NSYNC fanboy in high school. I had like a little NSYNC group, like me and the fellas, like we would perform at the talent shows and all that sort of stuff. Go ahead.
Nice. So are you Truman, Chrisman, Fort Osage?
Raytown. Oddly enough.
Oh,
I grew up in there's a little pocket of Independence that is actually the Raytown district. So
I think that's over by my parents. I had a house in Independence and we were in the Blue Springs school district. So I completely get those lines are goofy. Yeah. So
yeah.
You went to Raytown.
Went to Raytown, exactly. And so the funny thing about like even just me dancing is that like I spent like the first 12, 13 years of my life thinking that I was going to be a baseball player. Like I played baseball growing up. That was my sport. I was a diehard.
Did you play at Raytown?
No, so I actually never played in school because what happened was I played all the way through middle school and then for Christmas, I believe it was my 8th grade year. For Christmas, my parents got me and my best friend, my sister and her best friend, they got us tickets to an NSYNC concert. And this was at Kemper Arena. It was the first NSYNC tour like in the States. And like, yeah, to give an idea of like how early on it was in the like NSYNC mania of the early 2000s, I think my dad said that he just drove to Kemper Arena like the morning the tickets went on sale, and he was like 6th in line. And so we got second row tickets. Again, I've been this like sports baseball kid my whole life. I had gotten into NSYNC. I liked their music, which is why they got us the tickets. So we go to the concert. We're on the second row. It's me and my best friend Patrick, my sister and her best friend at the time. And like me and Patrick are like the only 2 dudes in sight other than like the 5 guys on stage,
right,
singing and dancing. And that was a moment for me that I just remember looking around this like arena of like 20,000 girls losing their minds. And as a 13-year-old boy, I'm like looking at the guys on stage being like, I need to figure out how to do that.
They got something. They're on to something here. Yeah.
I need to figure that out. So I like went home, like, and then like, yeah, the next day, like in the coming weeks, I just started like, I would record NSYNC concerts on VHS off of television. And I would just in my bedroom learn these dances just by rewinding, you know. So I'm completely self-taught. I never took dance in the studio. I learned from watching music videos. And then eventually I learned that Wade was their choreographer. And so it was kind of the logical path was I like NSYNC because of their dancing. This is the guy that taught them how to dance. So technically I'm a fan of him more than anything.
Right.
So I just started following Wade's career. Yeah, like I started following Wade's career. My senior year of high school, he had posted on his website that he was having auditions for a pilot for a new potential television series coming out. Called my parents. They were like out of town at the time, like asked them if they would drive me to Chicago to go audition for this pilot. They said no. But they said no. But they did say, you know, if it ends up becoming a real show, if there is another audition, like in the future, they're like, we'll take you to go. And so
how old were you at that time?
I was a senior in high school.
Senior in high school. Okay.
So like I started dancing like after my 8th grade year. That was when I started learning all the like music videos. And then, yeah, throughout high school, like I said, I just kind of created this little NSYNC group, which I think probably every high school in America in the early 2000s had an NSYNC group. Like there was a group of guys doing NSYNC dances at the talent shows, which is what I've learned. And then, yeah, by senior year, that stuff kind of went down. Wade filmed his pilot. The show got picked up on MTV. He posted the official audition. So I kind of went back to mom and dad and said, you remember, what you said?
I remember.
And in the meantime, I don't even remember how this came about, but like I said, in the meantime, there were auditions posted for this ABC family show called Dance Fever. Okay. And so I don't even remember that. I had talked my parents somehow into like taking me to those auditions as well. And yeah, the irony in all of that is, you know, to cut to the punchline, I won Wade's show. My dad and I drove to Chicago to audition for the ABC family show in early June. And this is 2003. I made the call back. Essentially, I didn't make it. Eventually, like I got cut. I didn't make it. We're on the drive out of Chicago back to Kansas City. And I'm, you know, sad and depressed at 18 because I didn't get onto the like national television show. And we knew leaving Chicago that we were going to be back in Chicago 3 weeks later to audition for Wade's show. And the story that I always tell is I can remember driving out of Chicago, my dad saying, my dad knew that I was like down because I hadn't made the show. And he had said, he was like, well, you know, he was like, everything happens for a reason. And he said, he was like, maybe there's something in store for you on this Wade show that you wouldn't be able to get if you had gotten this ABC family show. And yeah, at 18 years old, like you can't tell me nothing. I'm like, whatever, dad, just let me be sad. But sure enough, like I said, that's the irony is that there was something in store for me on that show. Yeah.
So you get on to Wade Robson's show, and as I'm kind of going through some of the pictures, I was doing a little bit of not a ton of research, but I was going through, man. I mean, funny thing when you have a daughter who's into dance, I was saying this a couple years ago. I was watching like the Super Bowl halftime show, and I'm like, I recognize more dancers than I do some of these musicians, honestly.
Yeah.
But I did notice. So I noticed Twitch in some of your pictures. So did you become close with Twitch? Became famous. He was, I knew him from So You Think You Can Dance, but he was obviously became a star with Ellen on her show. But so did you get close with him?
Yeah, absolutely. So Twitch was actually, he was one of my best friends. Twitch was on the Wade Robson project with me.
Okay.
And so
So
I actually.
time out. So time out. You beat him out.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
No, don't be bashful. Don't be shy. You beat him out. Okay.
But yeah, so he was on the show. That's where we met. And then he was my roommate for the last 2 years that I was in LA. Yeah, we lived together.
Okay, so you guys were roommates. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that was honestly that was a really sad loss. That's probably been 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
I was 2.
Like
I think
2 years ago. Okay,
because that was just the anniversary. It was in December. Yeah, unfortunately, it was too bad.
That's terrible, man. And I remember when I heard that, and I kind of reached out to Parker, and because again, he was one of our favorites to watch.
Yeah,
man. He was great. But anybody else on that show that you got close with, or that people might know?
I mean, it's as far as, I mean, I don't know about recognizable, like to the average person. Probably not.
Sure.
In the dance world, like you said, like,
right,
yeah, like there was definitely a number of dancers on the show that I think if you are a dancer, you would know a handful of them, but I don't know that to the average person. Twitch was definitely the one that made it the farthest. Yeah.
Right. He was the big name. So here's a picture of you winning that show.
Yeah.
God, you look like you're 12, bro.
I mean, I basically was.
That's you and Wade right there, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. The top prize for winning that show, 100,000, correct?
$100,000 among others.
What did you do as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old with $100,000? Like what, first of all, when you won it, did you have plans for it in case you won? Did you ever think you were going to win? And then once you got it, what did you actually do with it? Like, what did you put it towards?
I didn't really have plans. I mean, yes, obviously you wanted to win. I don't know that I thought I was going to win. What's funny is that I had multiple conversations with my parents before even going on that show. My senior year of high school, like I had multiple conversations with my parents about just moving to Los Angeles after high school to try like the dance thing. And they were like not having it. They were like, you're going to go to college. Like you need to go. That's what you're going to do. If the dance thing hadn't happened, I would have gone to college and probably been a theater major because I was a performer. I was a theater kid in high school. I did choir, I did band, a musician, obviously. So like that was the plan. When I got onto the show, like in my head, my literal only goal on that show was to make it far enough that I could look at my parents and say, see, I've got what it takes. Like, can I move to LA now? Right. I don't know that I necessarily expected to win, but when I did win, that was a pretty easy answer to say like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing now. And the timeline was kind of crazy because I graduated high school in May. I auditioned for that show in June. We filmed our first episode in August. The show ended. That picture from the finale you just showed, that was October 13th of 2003. And my dad and I drove a box truck to move me to Los Angeles the week of Thanksgiving that same year.
Really?
Yeah. So I graduated high school in May. I was living in LA by Thanksgiving. And yeah, to your point, like $100,000 at 18 years old, I was extremely irresponsible. I got a car that was far too expensive for me. And then I lived in LA for 3.5 years. For the most part.
So that money helped you live in LA. Because as we talk right now, you taught my daughter Parker. She's now 21 years old. But a few years back, she was a senior in high school, and that was her plan. I want to go to LA and I want to dance. And so me and her mom, we sat down and we thought about it, and we were all for it. kind of almost the opposite of your parents. Like we were like, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely go for it. But here, there were a couple stipulations, being in LA, you're going to have to work. You were definitely going to have to work 2, if not 3 jobs. Now, one of your jobs, you're wanting to be in dance. So she was going to try out for the Lakers. She was going to try out for the whoever else, the Clippers, whatever. She really, I think she only tried out for the Laker girls. But the idea was try to get on one of those dance teams. But aside from that, knowing that those dance teams, I mean, what are you making? Like $3,000 a year? Like you're not making anything. So and plus that's going to take up a lot of your time. So in addition to making one of those teams or doing something in dance, you're going to have to do a couple other things besides just dancing. That's what LA is. It's an expensive place to live. And I think in her head, and I don't want to speak for her because I'm sure she might one day watch this and be like, no, that's not what I was thinking. But the idea was, and I did have some chats with her, like, she wants to be in LA because she wants to be on the beach. She wants to, relax on the beach and beautiful, settings and stuff like that. And she also wants to train and dance. But like I said, I'm like, hun, you're going to have to dance. You're going to have to work probably 2 more jobs just to pay your rent. And then there's sleep. You're not going to have a whole lot. You really don't need a TV because you're going to be working and dancing and working and dancing. And it's literally like sleep and repeat. And it's a grind out there. It really is. And I don't know, at that age, I think kids think they know everything. But she went out there. She found an apartment with her mom. I mean, they went that far. Like we had planned the trip out there. How are we going to move her out there? But one of the key things was she needed a roommate. She needed a roommate, if not 2 roommates, that's how you make it. And so I think she had some roommates, but it was kind of, rocky. Like we think that's going to be the room. There was nothing solid ever.
Right.
And, she met one girl through an app where people find, roommates and stuff like that. And we have some connections out there in LA. But it just never felt comfortable. I've got friends out in LA. I've got some in, Laguna Beach. I've got some, and I talk to them, and I have some friends that grew up in in LA proper. And it's just like, where's a good place? So I think she was looking at I think it was West Hollywood, maybe. She found an apartment. It was a great apartment. Honestly, the price was good, but even at that price, you need a roommate. And when the roommate falls through, things just fall through. Things happen. And I have talked to her since, and it's been a little bit of Dad, I like having money. I like having, because right now she has her own apartment here in Kansas City, and apartments in general are just expensive. I think she's paying more for her apartment that she's in now, her 1 bedroom, than I ever paid for any of my apartments that I lived in.
Yeah.
And it's tough, but that's, hey babe, I'm recording. What? Yeah, looks great. But anyways, sorry. So yeah, she's got her apartment, and I think she's like, Dad, I just like to have money. I like to be able to buy things. If there's something I want, I like to be able to get it. And I think that's the thing. I think she has a good head on her shoulders because she knew if I move out to LA, I'm not going to have anything. Like I'm literally not going to have anything for a while. You've got to build. And the other thing she also told me was, Dad, I'm 18, I'm 19, LA still going to be there, when I'm 22, 23, if I'm still, doing the dance thing. So currently she's at Johnson County Community College. Yeah. She's dancing, getting an education, they're paying for her classes. So yeah,
that's
she's
great.
Yeah, but definitely moving to LA was big on her list. And we were there but we weren't going to push her. And, but we wanted her to know the reality of it, that most people move out there and they're back within a year.
And there is, and yes, like the lifespan. I mean, again, like I made it 3.5, almost 4, but like there is a desire factor or a passion factor, I should say. That was one of the things that I realized when I got out there was like when I got out, like I love to dance. it wasn't until I got out there and like actually completely like what's the word submersed or like completely into the dance world that I realized like I loved dance. A lot of the reason I got into dance was because of the music. Like we talked about, I've been a musician my whole life. At that point, when I moved to LA, I'd only been dancing for 4 years. I thought I wanted to be a dancer. And then when I got out there and was surrounded by all the dancers that have been doing it their whole life, they're like, this is the one track mind that have the blinders on. I was like, oh, I don't think I have the passion to get rejected as much as you're going to get to get the success that you want. Like, and that's, you know, like, it's just like, that was just some self-awareness that I realized once I had gotten out there. And that coupled with the fact that like, and I'm not going to blame, you know, any other circumstances than myself, you know, like I could have worked harder for sure. I could have trained harder. I could have stuck it out, but I realized that I didn't want to stick it out for dance. Like I would rather get rejected musically, trying to do music things or other things like that, than as a dancer. But at the time that I was there, I also ran into like a little bit of just a product of the industry. Whereas like at the time when I was there, the R&B world, it was like, I can't even remember half the like big, you know, it's like Janet Jackson was still doing her thing. Usher was still really big. Justin had just gone solo. The pop world was kind of like the boy bands were dissolving and we were moving into more of like an R&B and a little bit of a hip hop like tinged pop world. R&B was taking over MTV, hip hop was taking over the pop world. And so what I ran into a lot was in the dance world when I would get sent on auditions. If I went on an audition for Usher, or if I'm being completely honest, if I went on any audition for an R&B singer that was African American or Latino or Hispanic, basically what was going to happen is they're going to hire one white guy as a backup dancer. And the one white guy they hire is probably going to be 6 foot and jacked. And me being 5'8" and like skin and bones at the time, I wasn't their guy. And I got typecast a lot too. There's a handful of choreographers that are well known to be typecasters, where it's you go to their audition and before any dancing happens, they line everybody up, and based off your look, they will go down the row and they will say, please stick around, or thanks for coming out. And I 10 times out of 10 for me, thanks for coming out, Tyler. So like I wouldn't even get to dance for some of those. And again, like I'm not blaming it on that, but it was just kind of the product of like the industry at the time. And again, I could have trained harder, I could have stuck it out, I could have stayed longer, but eventually like those were some of the things that led me to realize like I don't have the passion for dance like I do for music to like stick through all of that. And the funny thing about that is not long after I moved home within the industry, not long after I moved home was when all the like Disney stars started popping off. Bieber started hitting, Hannah Montana, like, you know, Demi Lovato, like these shorter white Disney stars were hiring more people that looked like me, which is kind of funny. Not to blame it or not to say that I would have like booked any of that stuff, but it was something ironic that I noticed after getting home, which was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it's all about timing. It's all about timing. Yep. It is fun. It is one of my favorite things that Parker ever did. She got to be in a Chris Calico video. Chris Calico, when he was still with Strange Music, and you know, Tech Nine was on the set. They did it at Union Station, and just the fact that she got to be on a live set, it was awesome to watch. You know, it was also kind of heartbreaking for her because, like you said, there's a look that people are looking for, and you know, even if it's just height, you know, size wise, and you know, she was all set to have this one part, but then, you know, another girl comes in, she's a little bit smaller, a little bit cuter, and a little bit more of what they were looking for, you know, just that younger, and she beat her out. But so then all of a sudden Parker gets pushed to the back, and then somebody else steps up to the forefront. And so like at the end of the video, there's a big group dance there at Union Station, and they're all doing stuff. And Parker was trying to find her window so she could be on camera
Yeah.
more. But if that one person is in front of you, then it's so. But I love that she got to experience that and see what that's like. And she danced for she auditioned for a Genuine video, which she was a little too young for at the time. But I do remember when they were doing, because I was there at the audition, and they were showing them the routine to do, and it's a Genuine video. It's a little risque, and Parker was there probably earlier than she should be, but we were there with her as parents, and they gave her the dance to do, and she tweaked it to be more for somebody her age. She
Right.
didn't do what they were looking for, and they literally commented on that after. They're like, look, we think you're an amazing dancer. We love the fact that you took it upon yourself to change it up to meet your standards. And they said, but obviously, we'd love to see you down the road, but for this you're a little too young. At that point you just hear about auditions and you take them. You just throw it against the wall and see what sticks, kind of thing.
And it's all valuable. Like it's especially if it's something you want to do. Like there's nothing like actually going to a real audition and getting the experience. And then even when you book it, even like the Chris Caligo video, like there's nothing like, for a performer, there's nothing like being on set. Like it's one of the most fun things ever. I didn't do a lot of music videos or dance stuff. The last year and a half that I was in LA, I got into commercial acting. And so I did a handful of like commercials. I did some national commercials and booked a good number of commercial spots. And it's the same thing. It's being around the cameras, being around set, being, a part of the industry. It's fun.
Right. So after LA, you said you spent about 4 years there, 4 or 5 years. You come back to Kansas City.
Yeah.
And how did you get so for those that don't know, I mentioned in the intro about your Super Bowl rings. And let me show the fans. Let me show the audience. Look at that. That's 3 great. Super Bowl rings, bro.
Yes, sir.
Trying to get that 4th one on the finger this year. I will say,
we'll see.
I'm going to assume your rings have a few less diamonds than Patrick Mahomes' rings.
They do. So they there's 2 tiers of rings. So I've been with the Chiefs since 2011, 13 years or so now. I have a part-time job, technically, like you said, like as far as giving tours. My job has kind of changed over the years as far as responsibilities go, but what it comes down to it is I'm just part of their like youth staff. So it used to be anything. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how did you get involved? Like what brought you to the Chiefs?
I just applied. So the funny thing is you said like, so I moved home from LA, and I moved home from LA partly because I had just ran out of my money. It was time to come. Partly because I realized, like, again, I had more of a passion for music than anything. And I had spent 3.5, 4 years in LA doing these commercials and acting, dancing, and taking class. I had started to produce music while I was there, but it was very much like in my bedroom as a hobby. Like I was learning how to produce in LA. And I just, knowing myself, again, running out of money, wanting to kind of like switch focus, I told myself that I was just going to come home, lock myself in my room, and just learn how to produce music and master that craft. So when I came home, like I said earlier, like I took a year or 2 off from dancing, almost like, I think looking back in hindsight, like that was another life, like I was beyond dancing. And so, that's what I did. I came home, locked myself in my house, did not go out very often, sat at my computer all day, all night, learned how to make beats, learned how to produce music, all that. I had gotten a job as a tour guide at the Arabia Museum downtown in the River Market. I grew up with the family that actually owns the museum. So when I moved home, a lot of my friends who were family members, they worked at the museum as tour guides. When I got to talking to them, for me, it was just kind of like, what's the job? Oh, it's a tour guide. Oh, you're telling me that it's public speaking. Like, oh, just talk. Like, again, I'm a performer. It seemed like an easy job. I knew that I wouldn't really have to apply. I had to apply, but I knew that they'd give me a job. And so I started being a tour guide at the Arabia. And so I would go to work again. I would come home and just make music all night.
Okay.
And then that led into the Chiefs. Like in 2011, 2010, they renovated Arrowhead Stadium. They put in this room called the Sports Lab, which was a big interactive room that was all geared towards like health and fitness and educating children. And so in 2011, they started an educational tour program for school kids. And they had just posted on their website. I was a diehard Chiefs fan. I would check the Chiefs website. I would check Arrowhead Pride with my morning coffee. I would read all the articles. I was a diehard. And they posted an ad on the Chiefs website that they were hiring tour guides for this new educational program, and I literally just applied. I had been doing school tours at the Arabia, so I had said, experienced tour guide, like I've worked with children. I applied, and that's how I got in.
Yeah,
and
you
I've
kind
been
of
there,
fit
like I
perfectly
said,
for
since
that.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I will say, I didn't know that part. I didn't know you were with the Chiefs. And when I found out you did tours, I was kind of talking to Parker about it. And she's like, yeah, he did one of my tours when we went for our school. And I'm like, first of all, time out. Like, I don't remember a permission slip coming home saying you guys are going to Arrowhead. Like, I would have liked to have gone
I
on
would have
that
gone,
instead of the nature center or wherever the hell you're taking me. Like, yeah, you guys went to Arrowhead. She's like, yeah, we went to Arrowhead. And he was my tour guide. And I'm like, so, and this was after you had been her choreographer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did you speak up and say something to him? She's like, no, I didn't think he'd remember me. And so I was like, man, you gotta, if he doesn't remember you, say, hey, remember, I'm Parker.
Which I absolutely would have. Yes.
Yeah. So I had no idea though. Again, I was surprised that my kids went on tours to Arrowhead and that they had seen you there. So yeah, that's awesome. So you've been with them for how many years? You said you said it earlier, but
13 since 2011.
13 years. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. That's pretty awesome. Those Super Bowl rings are pretty sweet. They got your name on them and
and the funny thing is when I started with the Chiefs, I started with the Chiefs during the Todd Haley and Scott Pioli era, which if you are a Chiefs fan, you know what that means.
Yes, and I do.
So it has been a wild ride, having been there as long as I have, seeing all of the changes. The stadium's been renovated. There have been spaces that have been remodeled. The team obviously has been remodeled. But yeah,
Yes.
And I think I posted something about that when I got my first Super Bowl ring, like on my Instagram. I had posted something. I've been a diehard Chiefs fan since I was a kid. So it's like if you had told me as a kid that I would get to work for my favorite team, like that would have blown my mind enough. But then to find out that I get my own ring, and I guess long way around to your point, the difference in the Super Bowl rings, players and coaches, obviously they get the big fancy ones. There is like a second tiered ring, which is kind of what all the part-time workers get, but it is official. Like it has my name on it. It is team issued. It's not because I know that they sell a lot of like replicas, like fans can buy replicas.
Fans can buy them. And
it's not a replica.
That's kind of silly.
It is real. It's from Jostens. It's the real
That's
deal.
awesome. Yeah. Let's not get into the fans. Me and my brothers on our Quit Acting Stupid pod. So I've been a fan my entire life as well. My dad was a fan. I remember going to Chiefs games at Arrowhead when they were like Royals games and no one was there and you can walk up and down the aisles and goof around. Me and my brothers would goof around in the aisles and we didn't go to a lot of Chiefs games, but I remember Carlos Carson and Bill Kinney and I remember I've been a fan forever. I've done the Romeo Cornell years. I've done the Todd Haley years. I've done all that. So I am a fan, but man, and I don't think it's just Chiefs fan. I think it's football fan in general. Bills fans jumping through tables and I don't know. Let me ask you real quick before we get on to another one of your employers let me ask you real quick. Do you have any thoughts on, and don't ruin your employment over this. Do you have any thoughts on Mitch Holthus? That's a long running theme with me and my brothers. Your thoughts on Mitch Holthus?
I love Mitch. I love Mitch. I don't know Mitch personally. I've ran into him a handful of times over the years. Super nice guy, great guy. I I don't listen to the radio broadcast. Like I know there's a lot of people that will do the like mute the TV and do the radio. Like
if I'm in the
like, I don't
car,
know, like
if I'm in the car, I do the opposite. I mute the radio. I watch the TV on my phone, and I've got it
fair
playing through my
enough.
speaker.
So you're not a Mitch
But
fan.
no, I mean, he just seems corny to me. Some of the stuff he says, like I feel like he's trying too hard to be
I get that.
Kevin Harlan. Like I loved Kevin Harlan and Len Dawson. Those guys were amazing on the radio. Like it just reminds me of childhood. But no, I'm not going to sit here and burn on Mitch. But yeah, it's a thing. It's whatever. Anyways, one of your other employers who I would say I'm probably a bigger fan of. I mean, I'm a fan of the Chiefs, like I said, my whole life. But your other employer, the Kansas City Royals, guys. If you've been to a Royals game in the last how many years? 3 years at least? 4 years?
Going on 7. Last year was year 6.
So but have you been like the between inning entertainment for all those years?
That was my 6th season. Yeah, hosting.
So Tyler here is if you've been to a Royals game, you will recognize.
I love that photo. Yes,
I know. I'm sorry. I'll get that. I wanted a photo.
It's great.
I wanted a photo of you on the scoreboard,
and
that's
I get it.
That's from my own camera, my own pictures. I was there opening day this past year, and I'm like, it's Tyler. Like, there's Tyler, and I've seen you there before. You do the between inning stuff. This one's a much cooler picture of you with the Royals with legendary Royal Alex Gordon. So I feel like you're a little more entrenched in the team with the Royals. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're like best buddies with Bobby Witt, but I feel like you work more with the team with the Royals. Is that correct?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't work directly. I mean, I'm seasonal even with the Royals. Like I'm the in-game host, and that's kind of what I do.
Sure.
Now, obviously, yes, like I interview players sometimes. There are opportunities that I interact with them. I mean, I think more than anything at Kauffman is that the players actually just know me because I'm on the screen. And it's funny because I've had moments like that where, you know, I get that I'm on the screen, but at the same time they're playing a game. I don't really expect them to like know me. But there have been times where like there've been players that I haven't personally met before, and if I do interact with them or I run into them on the field or like in the back hallways, like they'll be like, "Oh, what's up, Tyler?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know who I am?" Well, of course, like I guess I am on the screen, but you just don't expect them to be sitting in the dugout, you know, watching Crown Vision in between innings.
Sure. Well, I will say, you know, I played baseball my entire childhood growing up. I love baseball. Like I said, I'm probably a bigger Royals fan than Chiefs fan. I'm a huge fan of both of them, but I'm more, you know, locked in when it's baseball season. Baseball could be a boring sport to play and to watch. It can be. So I can totally see players in the dugout on game 132, and you're like, "What's Tyler up to today?" Let's watch the in between innings. Yeah.
And I mean, even just the nature of the game. Yeah, absolutely. It's like they're watching probably more than you realize they're watching.
Right. I wanted to have you on. We started talking about you coming on, like it was probably towards the playoff run last year. I remember I'm like, oh man, Tyler would be cool to have on during this playoff run. Man, I was so pumped for that thing.
Yeah, that was great.
I went to the last game that they lost to the Yankees, and a little heartbreaking, but you know, you got to put that aside and realize that, man, they had a season, man. And so
it was just, honestly, it was great to have playoff baseball back in Kauffman. You know, I always wanted to make the playoffs, and I've said for the past couple of years, well, even I say past couple of years, I think they made a bigger jump than anybody thought they were going to make this year as far as quality and talent goes. And so when it started looking like the playoffs were a real potential, I mean, I told everybody, I wanted to make the playoffs, but selfishly, like that was my 6th year hosting as the in-game host. I selfishly wanted to do my job at a
Yeah.
playoff game. And yeah, the environment, the atmosphere was completely different. It was so heightened. It was great to be back in a playoff game at Kaufman, and hopefully, it's like hopefully that's the standard now, right? All of the
I
guys have
would,
said, Bobby said, this is what we do now. It's not a matter of getting into the playoffs; it's a matter of how far we get.
yeah.
Vinny just said, Vinny was on, I think, MLB radio just in the past day or two, and they asked him if he had any New Year's resolutions, and he said, win a World Series. He said, get to the playoffs and make it farther than
Saw
the
that.
divisional series. So, like,
Yeah.
I think they got a taste of it, and I think a lot of those younger guys are probably really hungry. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's a regular thing for the next however many years.
I love that you're on a first name basis with Vinny and Bobby. Did you get an invite to Bobby's wedding this summer, a couple weeks ago?
Unfortunately, did not. No, I think it probably just got lost in the mail or something.
Probably. You should probably talk to him about it when you see him
I'll,
next.
I'll chat with him with
Be like,
when
bro,
they get back from spring training. Yeah,
man, those with the groomsmen, like he sent out like Topps baseball cards as like groomsmen invite.
that was a cool touch.
That was really neat. I'm a big baseball card nerd. I've collected baseball cards my whole life. I still freaking buy them as an adult, embarrassingly enough. But yeah, I'm totally into that. But when I saw that, I thought that was pretty cool. He had that. Did you see he had that Whataburger at his wedding?
I did see.
That's insane.
Yeah, the Whataburger pop up. Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll have that at our wedding, but I respected it.
I think you should talk to him about it and say, hey, look, man, I know you got some of those Whataburger.
I mean, yeah, if Bobby will bring it, I might then.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely Bobby and Vinny are obviously on your invite list, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Man, that'd be a nice present, man. That's awesome, dude. I know I see you every time I go to a game and I see you in between innings, and I'm like, man, I know that guy. I know that guy. Like you're, I wonder if now that I have an inroads with you, could I maybe run the bases and try to beat Slugger, or they run the no.
Oh, can you beat Bobby or steal a base?
Well, there's a couple
different ones. Kid, yeah. So steal a base that's for children. That's
I can do that still.
They got to run from the foul pole down to like the coach's box. They steal the base from Slugger and then they run back.
That's it. Okay.
Last year we debuted the new game, which was Can You Beat Bobby? And that's where that is for adults. And we put it's a little like cartoon version of Bobby Witt. We'll put Bobby Witt on the screen on the outfield board, and they've got to race him from left field around the warning track to the right field bullpen.
Yeah,
but Bobby runs as fast as real Bobby. We could make that happen.
I bet I could beat Bobby. That's not a problem. Dude, I would pull up lame. I would pull a hammy like within the first 12 feet.
We actually had a guy. He pulled a hammy this year. Like
of course
he made it. I don't know. He made it to about right center field on that warning track, and he had to limp his way. He barely got off the field before the next inning started. He had to hang out in the bullpen. Normally, they'll run the warning track, and then before the inning starts, they have enough time to run down the like sideline, the warning track, and get back into the tunnel by first base. But he had to hang out in the Royals bullpen for another half inning before he could limp his way back.
I would sit there and roll around the warning track, just grabbing they'd have to pause the game and have to get a stretcher out there for me. That's insane.
Yeah, that's funny.
So are there any cool new games that are you involved in any of that, or is there's a whole other team I'm sure that does that?
No, I mean, that's our team. So I'm a part of the in-game entertainment team. So we usually, what we do, then it happens in November. Usually the first week in November, once the season is over, we have a big just kind of brainstorming meeting with our department, where that's just what we do. We will go over, we do kind of a year in review, and we will go over all the different ways that we impacted like the in-game entertainment. We talk about what games we liked, what games we didn't like, if we'd like to tweak any of them, if we'd like to change any of them. And then everybody gets a chance to kind of propose new ideas. Everybody has to bring 2 or 3 new features, new games, whatever. And And yeah, so that's a yearly thing. After the end of every season, we get together, throw a bunch of ideas at the wall. My boss and the higher ups will take those back and sit on them and kick them around. And we will have here in March is when we're going to have, usually mid-March before the season starts, we do rehearsals for opening day. We do rehearsals just for all the different games that we're going to play throughout the year. And that's when I'll find out. That's when I'll find out what new games or what new entertainment we'll be doing. Yeah,
Sure.
in between innings.
So like the hot dog race, that's a staple, obviously. I think I would love to get in one of those hot dog suits too, but I also know I'm way too short, and I'd be one of the guys that's like looking out of the neck, you know, and as I'm running, the thing's like hitting. So it wouldn't work out for me just because of my height.
That is the trick. That is a good predictor that we have learned, because this last year was the first year. I believe this was the first year that they did They did a live hot dog race for every game. So it always used to be. It used to be that the live hot dog race was only on the weekends, Friday and Saturday, and then on Sunday they would do the teeny weenies, the kids hot dog race.
Teeny weenies. Okay.
Throughout the week, it was like a digital hot dog race that they would just run on Crown Vision, and you would just watch it. But this past year was the first year we did a live hot dog race for every single game. And yeah, like that's what we learned, that the good predictor for who is going to win is who had the most leg sticking out from under that bun. Yeah, tallest one.
There's
that. It's not going to interfere.
And then after being, you know, studying the hot dog race for many years,
of course,
another key would be you got to kick those shoes off, man. You got to kick those shoes off almost immediately.
Okay.
And that's going to help you. You get those shoes off, and you got to be taller to be able to see out of the hole, and you should be home free. Yeah. So one thing that did bother me this season and last season, I can't remember how many seasons they did it. Okay, so teams started doing this thing where you hit a home run, and like the Mariners would have their Triton and you know, whatever. And so the Royals had that mask that they wore.
Yeah,
pretty cool looking. I know in Minnesota they had a jacket that they put on that said Great Lakes or whatever. Now, if you can get this to Vinny, this is a great idea. Yeah. Why did they not? I mean, they're the Royals. Hit a home run, come to the dugout, bow, put a crown on their head, give them a scepter, maybe put a little, you know, King's cape thing on. You know, it seemed obvious. It seemed obvious. And all season, I'm like, who can I talk to get this sent up the flagpole? Like, it's an obvious miss. You know,
I mean, it makes sense. And I honestly, I don't know well enough where the mask came from. I'm sure that it was a clubhouse thing. It was something that the guys had going amongst themselves, which I think is what a lot of those are. But I don't disagree that a crown and a cape seems pretty fitting.
Yeah. Hit a home run, come back to the dugout. You know, you bow. Vinny's there. He puts a crown on your head, takes the scepter, whatever, man. There's so much you could do. Anyways, I'm a baseball nerd, so
I'll pass it on.
But thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Course,
the other thing I need to hit you up for is I got all the bobbleheads this year, except for the Salvi blowing bubble bobblehead. Man, I can't get that. That's the one I missed, and you know, I gotta find a way
Those are harder to come by, but I do know that there's usually more around. Now, I say more. I don't know about that one specifically. There's always bobbleheads around from years past. I just don't know. I don't know what the inventory is like on that.
I was going to say, I know there's a closet there somewhere that has all this old shit that I'm sure you could maybe peek in.
Yeah, so, I can ask around for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, I love seeing you there. Nowadays, I caught up with you because you are on certain day you're tending bar.
I am.
You make a delicious cocktail here. This is you at Sagebrush. My girlfriend and I stopped by to peek in. You're not only the bartender, you're the DJ. You're you wear many hats there.
In a way, yeah. So yeah, we play vinyl off of just a little record player there, and yeah, that is half of the fun of that job is kind of curating the vibe for the night, and it can change on any given night. So we've got a pretty extensive vinyl collection down there now. And so yeah, it's just kind of fun to go off the crowd and the vibe and what it's like in the room, and play DJ a little bit while we're making some drinks.
The night I was there, you had a little Anderson .Paak playing, so I was feeling it. It's good, definitely a good vibe there. So you work bar there on what nights again?
Typically, I'm there Tuesdays and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay. It's an awesome little spot. Like, so I had been wanting to stop by for a while, and then when I put it in my maps or whatever, and it's in KCK, I knew the road it was on. I was familiar with it. I used to kind of work out that way.
Yeah.
Is the address on the boulevard or?
It's on the boulevard.
So that's just
It's the KCK side. I think the easiest cross streets are just to say Southwest and Mission. I mean, it's a little ways down from Southwest and Mission, but that's the area. That's the neighborhood. It is technically it's the Rosedale neighborhood. It is KCK, but it is on the boulevard. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I stopped in there. Like I said, I put it in my phone, and I'm like, it says it's here. Like I it's such a tiny little spot. And it's like, it's perfectly quaint. It's like, and it says Sagebrush on the door, but I think I was looking for like a sign above or something. But no, man, I passed it and I had to think, I'm like, oh no, wait, here it is right here. And man, we went in, delicious. I can't remember what I ordered. I should have written it down, but whatever that order was of mine, do you have a drink called Sagebrush?
Yeah. There's a drink
that might be what
Sagebrush. Yeah.
I don't know. It was delicious, man. It was delicious.
They're great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
How long have you been doing that?
So that bar opened in mid-August, and I've been with them from the start.
Okay, but like for bartending, because I worked at Holiday Distillery up in Weston.
Yeah,
and I wore a bunch of different hats for them. It was kind of a fake it till you make it kind of thing. I got hired on by a buddy who I'd love to have on this show down the line. He had to hire me and fire me, which is awesome. But I worked in the sales department. I worked in the business department or whatever, but I finally kind of locked in when I was working for the social media. I did all their social media posts for all their different brands, 360 vodka, Tequila Rose, Five Farms, that kind of stuff. And while we were doing that, though, they did put us through a couple bartending classes. They wanted us to have the skill, know what we were doing, that kind of thing. So I've taken some bartending classes, man. That's a skill. That's definitely a skill. It's obviously not just pouring drinks, man. It's
right.
So where did you learn to become a bartender, to make different drinks and stuff?
Just at home. So that's the funny thing about that is I started bartending at Sagebrush when they opened in mid-August. There's a bar, another cocktail bar in Independence that I started at earlier in July of this year. Those were the first cocktail bars that I've ever worked at. That's the first time I've been in the service industry or been a quote unquote bartender behind the bar. Now that being said, like craft cocktails have been my hobby, like at home for probably like 10 years now.
Okay.
8 to 10 years. Like I've been doing cocktails at home. Like I learned how to make cocktails from YouTube. But that's just like, that's my thing at home. Like I've always been the drink guy. Like me and Allison, we're big fans of cocktails. We love cocktail bars. We love anytime we travel, we'll, do the research, find the good cocktail bars around, and we'll visit them. So it's just, it's something that I've been doing at home for years. My mom always used to tell me for years that I should go be a bartender. And at the time, like we've talked about, I worked for the Chiefs. I worked for the Royals. I produced some music. Like I've always had my hand in a bunch of part-time pots when it comes to work.
Sure.
And when I earlier this year came up needing work, needing to fill some time, needing to make some extra money outside of the other jobs. And it was the first time in however many years of my mom saying, you should go be a bartender. Because for the longest time it was, well, I don't want to go be a bar. Like I like making drinks to drink them at home. Like,
right.
I don't
right.
necessarily want to go in like 10 bar for hours just to make drinks for everybody else. But yeah, like both the bars kind of turned out to be needing help at just the right time that I was needing work, and it felt like the right time to just kind of jump behind the bar and get into it. And yeah, it's been a ball, man. It's been fun. And
That's awesome.
ironically, Chris, who's the owner of Sagebrush, which him and his wife, for anybody listening that's familiar with the campground, it's the same owners. So the campground is in West Bottoms, Stockyards District.
Okay.
Campground's been open since 2018. They've got a full kitchen. It's a more labor-intensive bar program that they have there.
Right.
And as you saw with Sagebrush, Chris's concept there is that he just wanted it to be fast service. Half the menu is on tap. It's all about the vibes. We play the vinyl, but I guess the irony is that Chris, who owns the campground in Sagebrush, is very similarly not a trained bartender. He learned how to make drinks from YouTube. He taught himself reading cocktail books, watching videos,
Right.
which is very much kind of the school that I came from, which was
Awesome.
self-taught. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I loved the vibes down there. It was great time. We're definitely looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, man.
Nice quiet little spot, man, for sure. So
it's definitely it's like, it feels weird to call it a neighborhood bar because it feels a little more vibey than when you
Right.
think of the term neighborhood bar, but it's very much a neighborhood bar.
a neighborhood bar. Absolutely.
We've got the regulars, the neighbors come in, we've got, our clientele, and it's, you talk about how small it was. I don't know if you're familiar. Next door Garden House it's a coffee shop and a plant shop that Sagebrush butts up to. The owners of Garden House, Jordan and Emily, were the ones that actually approached Chris and his wife, the owners of the campground, because the footprint that Sagebrush sits in was a dirt pad. So like that bar was built from scratch. There was nothing there.
Okay.
They had kind of this dirt alleyway next to Garden House and the other building, and he approached Chris and said, "We've got this empty space. Are you interested in doing something?" And so, yeah, Sagebrush was a ground up build just for that little space.
I didn't know that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, it's a very it's not tons of crap on the wall. It's just a nice, here you are, here's your drink, cool little light above. Just like you said, it's a very vibey kind of place, and
yeah.
Man, it's a nice place to relax and just chill. So when the Royals start back up again, are your nights there obviously going to be cut short a little bit? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's just my schedule at Sagebrush will be wholly dependent on the Royals schedule. So if the Royals are in town, I'll be working games. If the Royals are out of town, I'll be at Sagebrush. Or even if the Royals are in town and they, if they're off on a Thursday night, I'll be at Sagebrush,
Sure.
when they're not. Yeah.
Right. And not only Sagebrush on Wednesday, I think it's Wednesday nights, you can find Tyler tending bar at the Sentinel down in on Independence Square.
Sentinel room, yeah, for sure, up on the Independence Square, absolutely.
Sentinel room, yeah. So are you friends with that owner as well? Is that how are you helping out there, or how did you get that?
Similarly, yeah. So Travis and Bree, that was where I started bartending earlier in the year. Like that was the first one I took, and so I'm good friends with. I say I'm good friends. I had heard good things about the Sentinel room earlier this year. My dad and I went up there to check it out it might have been May or June. And upon going there, yeah, the owners, Travis and Bree, were there, or maybe Bree was there, but come to find out that I had a bunch of mutual friends with the owners.
I gotcha.
From growing up. I grew up in the Community of Christ Church. So I ended up having a lot of mutual friends with them from a lot of like church camps and church events that I had known through high school and middle school. I didn't know them personally at the time, but I knew who they were. They knew who I was. And that was we hit it off that first night that I had visited there. They said that they were hiring. That was when I was first starting to think that I might explore like the bartending world. And so that was kind of what got my foot in the actual bartending door. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's one place I haven't stopped in yet, and I'd like to try it. I passed it a couple times. I'm not, my girlfriend's from Independence, and so occasionally we'll find ourselves on the square there. And I'll have to drop in and pop in and say hi. But well, Tyler, is there anything you're working on now coming up? We didn't get into your music too much, but anything you're working on coming up that you want people to know about?
Oh goodness. No, it's the same old baseball season. Baseball's coming right back up. I'm always working on music. I will be doing. I try to do I do a trip to Nashville about once a year. I try to go for 10 days or so, week and a half. One of my best friends that I've worked on music with for years. He's been in Nashville for 7 years now. So I'll go down there, hole up for 10 or 12 days with him. We've formed a lot of relationships with a lot of artists down there in Nashville that we'll bring through, and we'll try to write 2 or 3 songs a day, and hopefully something happens with them. One of the first songs we wrote a couple of years ago, we actually got placed on Bel Air, the show on Peacock. So we've had we got some placements. I got a song placed on there handful of years ago as well. I got a song placed on Young and the Restless.
Really?
Couple of songs actually placed on the Young and the Restless, but that's what's always in the works. It's always music. I probably should be doing more music than I always am, but it's baseball and music for the most part, and then drinks when I can.
Man, well, I loved having you on, man. This has been as good as I thought it would be, at least for me, catching up with you, man. Yeah. So God, I'm trying to think of what else, man. Nashville's a good, fun place to go, man. I've been there a couple times. Anytime I can get away to Nashville, that's a good time. So
it's a great time.
I was going to tell you, and not to turn your music trip to Nashville into food.
Go ahead.
But it's a running theme. We always talk about food on our podcasts, but there's a place on, is it just Broadway or Main Street, wherever all the bars are. It's, God dang, it's across the street from the Hard Rock. It's that last restaurant there on the end.
Okay.
It's like, is it like Acme Feed or
it's
it
like
called?
is it like the what's the word, like parlor? Is it the one where it's like it's all the different food spots in one?
I think so. I don't know, but I can't wait to go back. I know
what you're talking about,
because they had the best freaking mac and cheese. I know this is a total
Acme Feed and Seed.
Yeah, that's it. Acme Feed and Seed. It sounds like where fat people go to just sit and eat. But man, their mac and cheese was killer. Plus, every place you go into on Broadway or Main Street or whatever has awesome live music there. And so we loved it there. Obviously the Nashville hot chicken is always I know. I'm looking at it now. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. God, I had the greatest. I can't wait to go back and have some mac and cheese. I'm an idiot. But I had a blast, and we did the Old Smoky distillery tours and stuff, and so it's a good time there in Nashville for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I was there. What was it? A few years ago, we watched. I guess it wasn't the playoffs. The Chiefs played the Titans in Nashville one year, and I don't know. You mentioned Old Smoky. I remember watching that at the Old Smoky Distillery. We went to watch. It was a good time. Yeah,
my brother and I were planning on heading down there for the Mizzou game, the Music City Bowl. But things just happened. We couldn't get out of town. We couldn't all make it out at the same time, so we canceled that. But that was definitely on our radar. But all right, man. Hey, look, I've had a great time having you.
Likewise.
We're going to keep in touch. You'll see me at Sagebrush again. Man.
Absolutely.
Love catching up.
Let's do it again. Bud. Have me back whenever you want, man.
Will do, man. Guys, thanks for just under an hour, man. Or just over an hour.
Nailed it.
Very nice. Man, this is perfect. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on and talking with us. Catch Tyler in between innings at the Royals games, and give that. You know what? I need to take a tour of Arrowhead. I don't know if I've ever done that. So
come through. I got you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right. Well, again, for Tyler and myself, thank you guys for watching. And this has been Quit Acting Stupid, episode 2. Thanks a lot, guys.